Friends, do you know about the scientific lie we are taught about the planet Mars? When we say Mars, what we see is like a silent red desert with no fertile land. But there's something hidden on Mars from which no astronaut who went there can escape. So then, have people from so-called developed countries actually gone to Mars? Mainly, there's very severe dust. So how can dust be so dangerous? Do you know what that dust is like? It's like sharp blades. It's okay if it's sharp, you might say. Somehow, the dust will cut and enter the body. But this dust is very poisonous, and it's extremely dangerous dust. The dangerous chemicals in that dust can definitely destroy astronauts. It's not just about things like technical rovers. If you go to Mars as an astronaut, a very terrible disaster will happen to you too. The dust on our Earth has become smooth after being exposed to water and wind for thousands of years. In Mars's atmosphere, which has no water sources, that dust is unbelievably cruel. Gravity is minimal. The dust on Mars often doesn't stay on the ground. It remains in the sky continuously, and dust clouds cover everything. Every few years, dust storms also spread across the entire planet Mars. Through those dust clouds, let's imagine our rovers, the habitats we created, are covered by thick, unbreathable dust clouds. Already, many NASA rovers have become inactive for these reasons. The rover named Opportunity served on Mars for a long time, but it worked for us even beyond its service period. Because the rover's solar panels are covered with layers of dust, the rover can't charge its batteries, and this rover also doesn't work today. So friends, these knife-like dust particles also get inside the spacesuits. If that happens, astronauts will definitely be in danger. So, this regolith dust has a lot of dangerous things. The first one is silica, very fine particles that can be inhaled. If an astronaut inhales this silica, it will cause incurable wounds in the lungs. The next one is gypsum. This is actually a mineral. It causes unimaginable respiratory problems. The most dangerous of these are perchlorates. It's a type of salt. What it does is disrupt the function of the astronaut's thyroid gland. It stops the body from producing enough blood cells. Then there's nano-sized iron oxide. These, my friends, enter an astronaut's circulatory system. So unimaginable harmful things enter the astronaut's body from that as well. Mars dust, imagine a single dust particle is as small as 3 micrometers. That means it's very fine. You can imagine that those dust particles reach an astronaut's lungs by passing through the astronaut's suit. When we inhale this dust, it doesn't come out as dust. There is a sticky mucus fluid in the lungs. So what this mucus fluid does is protect our bodies from poisonous things like this. So friends, particles smaller than 5 micrometers can enter our body through the protective systems in the lungs. So until these dust particles enter the body and get into the blood, the astronaut might not feel anything. Now you can understand that protecting a human from the dust on Mars is an impossible task. So if this regolith is exposed to the eyes, even blindness can occur. It can even enter the body through the food and water an astronaut consumes. Regolith is very small, and because of the static electricity and mechanical stickiness of our bodies, it sticks very tightly to our bodies. It can even slip through the helmet seals of an astronaut. So, let's imagine we build a module to live on Mars. Didn't we say that dust storms are often on Mars? The air filters in the module we built can definitely get clogged. Or, what happened to the Opportunity rover we mentioned earlier could happen. When power is most needed to sustain life, the solar panels could be covered by dust and become inactive. NASA is already thinking about this. So NASA is creating a system for rovers and astronaut suits that can detect even small particles. So, self-cleaning filter systems must also be designed. Not only that, a device to repel static electricity from the human body also needs to be created. This means the toxic substances in these dust particles are drawn to the body by static electricity. Anyway, after doing all that, Let's imagine an astronaut has landed on Mars. But every 5 minutes, they have a lot of work to do. Because they have to vacuum their clothes. They have to clean the place where they are, the ground. They have to change the air filters. An astronaut has an unbelievable amount of work like that to do. So they don't even have time to do the work they came for. There is another problem, friends. There is harmful radiation in space. It is everywhere above our Earth's atmosphere. So when exposure to Mars dust is added to that, the problem gets worse. The red planet is located at least 9 months away from Earth. Let's imagine communicating from Earth to Mars. There is a 22-minute communication delay. So friends, you understand that an astronaut going to Mars is actually a problem, right? Not only that, an astronaut has to face a very complex chain of events. So, do you think space is a good place to take a vacation? Not only that, friends, in zero gravity, your muscles atrophy and you lose vision due to pressure on the eyes from the brain. Your blood changes. What we said are just some of the things that astronauts in Earth's orbit face. This isn't just one problem NASA faces today. Let's imagine that astronauts have created an environment to live on Mars. But all food items cannot be taken to Mars. The reason is that these are heavy. Transporting them is expensive. It takes a long time, like 9 months, to transport any goods. So then, for these astronauts to survive, the astronauts themselves have to produce food. That is also a very complex story. To grow food in the red soil, it's necessary to engineer microorganisms that can inhale carbon dioxide and convert it into oxygen. Not only that, astronauts will also have to face the activities of these strange new organisms. Mars is the 4th planet from the Sun, after Earth, which means it receives less sunlight than us. The gravity on Mars is only 40% of Earth's. When walking on Mars, it will feel very light. As it feels light, your bones will weaken rapidly. 1 year on Mars is 687 Earth days. That means you get twice as many birthdays. But there's water frozen in materials under the ground. There are no oceans on the planet. Some space agencies talk about terraforming. That means changing Mars to make it similar to Earth. They thicken the atmosphere of Mars. They warm the soil. Not only that, they release liquid water. So, it's not as simple as it sounds. So friends, did you know that in the distant past, the northern hemisphere of Mars was covered with oceans? At that time, Mars was a planet similar to Earth, with a thick atmosphere, rivers flowing through valleys and mountains, waterfalls, rain, and 2 moons. But somehow, somewhere, about 3.5 billion years ago, all of this changed. The water dried up or froze. Today, only old signs are left on the planet. So life must have existed there, right? If it did, we would have a lot of contact with Martian life by now. Anyway, the reason we research Mars so much is to create a second home for our Earth, so we can see how difficult that is. So protecting our Earth has become the main responsibility. Despite these facts, astronauts are still going to Mars even today. Has everyone who went there faced those infectious conditions? Or have astronauts not yet landed on Mars?